Hello and welcome to this video on the Joshua Yan channel. I am an MPhil student at the University of Oxford studying philosophical theology, and the goal of today's video, as the title suggests, is we're going to be asking ChatGPT to psychoanalyze myself. And the goal of this is not really to be like, oh, I want to become a genius, or show that you should switch therapy for ChatGPT, Rippy, or whatever they call it. However, what I do want to figure out is, well, actually, can you get some insight from ChatGPT? And you can see my ChatGPT screen is on the side here. We are going to ask it. This is ChatGPT 5 with ChatGPT Plus. And I'm going to ask them, I came across this on Instagram, so it was a really good idea. It says, well, can you ask me 10 questions about myself, which would reveal to me more about myself than I would ever have known. Feel free to ask follow-up questions as we go. Let's see what it says. Okay, I wonder how I can make this screen a bit bigger. Yes, I think that becomes a bit bigger. Let's begin. When you think about moments in your life that felt most alive, what common threads link them? Was it creation, connection, recognition, struggle, or something stranger? And that's actually quite interesting. I never thought about it this way. When you think about moments in your life, and feel free to do this yourself and let me know what you're getting at in the comments below. When you think about the moments in your life that felt most alive, what common thread links them? When do I feel most alive? Well, I think it really depends when I feel most alive. Let me create a banner so you can see this. Add banner. You know, I'm not actually too sure. I'm not actually too sure. I'm just typing out. I'm dictating while I'm typing out. I'm not actually too sure. When I feel alive, I don't know when I feel alive. Okay, now this is actually quite concerning. When do I feel alive? Oh, Josh Ed never feels alive. He always feels a bit dead. But no, when do I feel alive? When I feel alive, I normally am fishing. I guess that means in nature. I'll tell them also to keep track of these 10. I will go through them one by one. I'm not too sure. When I feel alive, I'm normally fishing. I guess that means I'm in nature. I am skiing, also in nature, but something a bit more exciting. Or traveling, when I am exploring something new. I do face some challenges and struggles and setbacks, but I don't really feel alive by overcoming them. I think struggles give me meaning, but I don't or wouldn't say that makes me feel any more alive by overcoming them. And I suppose that's actually an interesting thing. Feeling alive is different than having meaning. And that's actually an interesting point of reflection, because normally you would think, I feel alive, therefore I must have meaning, or therefore I feel meaningful in my life. I'm doing something with meaning, therefore I feel alive. That doesn't seem to necessarily be the case, because I could feel very meaningful. I could find meaning in my work, in my philosophy. But do I feel alive when I'm in a library reading books? Probably not, which is very interesting. So they're probing me a bit. They say, when you are fishing, they say, when you are fishing, skiing, or exploring, what's the quality of your awareness in those moments? Do you feel like you dissolve into the scene, or do you feel most yourself, sharply defined against the world? I find myself being redefined. I define and have impact through what I do. I catch a fish. In a small way, shape the terrain in my skiing. But I am also being shaped. I reflect, I ponder. In the case of travel, I learn about myself and my position in the world and amongst other cultures? Yeah, I'm not sure that I answered that question very well. It's not merely recreation, it's dialogue between the self and the world. It's like a hunt, an eternal hunt between you and divinity or the world around you. You don't disappear into existence nor stand apart from it. You engage with phenomenologists. Well, yes, I think this has been trained by my interest in phenomenology, but you train reciprocal constitution. You catch the fish with the fish, it's resistance. Oh, this is very beautiful, very interesting. When you return from these experiences, is it serenity or something else that lingers? I wish I was there longer. To be in nature, to be in a foreign place, to be, I suppose this is the Christian part, to be not of the world but in it. For you can only be on the slopes or the rivers or the foreign lands for a temporary time, not an eternal one. Very much so. So is the passage of life. Now, to ask them to move on to the next question after that. There's quite ache in that, almost elegiac. I don't know how I butchered that. You've touched a paradox of the pilgrim soul. The very thing that makes you most feel alive are transient by nature, the river, the mountains, the foreign city. You say to not be of the world, but in it. It's a profoundly theological phrasing. It's a desire for participation, not possession. Be immersed without being owned. You sense communion with the reality and not control over. And that is life, is it not? I think, life is precisely that which you're part of. You join in it to the world, but you're not really fully in it. You coexist with it. You walk with life, but you don't have control over it. That's what it is it not? The eternal world would deaden the pulse of discovery. The fleeting keeps it alive. There's something beautiful about the ephemeral. Well, that's beautiful. Let's move on to the second question. Not to dwell on this too long. What was it again? So the second question asks, what truth about the world do you suspect? Do you believe only because it gives you comfort? I don't know. What truth do I believe? What is a truth that I think would indeed, that I believe in only because I don't know, actually. I don't think I'll go into much depth in this question because I don't think it's particularly insightful in the longest sense. I would say everything happens for a reason. No, I do believe that's true. I fundamentally believe in the teleological, the purposiveness of nature, as Kant would put it. Moral people are fundamentally good. I don't think people are fundamentally good, so I don't tell myself that. I guess the question is like, what do you tell yourself when everything in your life goes to absolute hell? Well, I mean, I don't think I believe in God or religion because it just gives me comfort. I think there's good reason to believe in God and religion, and I think there's some beauty and aesthetic value to it. Maybe it's just that good will fundamentally prevail over evil. Both, actually, no, the redemptive power of beauty is something I think might be something which I would believe, not because I genuinely think it is the case, but because I think it is the case. Indeed, they managed to pick up Dostoevsky. I swear, I swear I've trained my ChatGPT too much that it's become a scholar on Dostoevsky. I swear that is the case. But it is indeed says the idea. You see, how do they even pick up Dostoevsky? It's clearly not from this. But they know I like Dostoevsky, and they know I sometimes talk to it about Dostoevsky and stuff, and it must know that it immediately just says, think of Dostoevsky's famous line about beauty saving the world. It's less of an assertion than a prayer. That is true in some sense. Beauty will save the world. It's a blind faith in beauty. Do you believe it because you've seen beauty heal or because you need it to? I think it is because I need it to. And I genuinely do think it is the case. There is nothing more divine in the human realm and accessible to the human than beauty. Truth is, in some sense, fundamentally beyond us. and so is goodness. But beauty one can intuit and experience without hindrance. Yeah, that's why I believe in beauty. You see beauty as an incarnation of the transcendent, not a mere pointer towards it. Oh, how genius this is. This is actually quite fascinating. I've inverted the Platonic hierarchy in many ways, perhaps I do. Well, I'm not saying, in saying that truth is and goodness is beyond us, I'm not saying that they are not potentially higher, and I do think they are potentially higher than beauty. I'm just saying for the experience, I think this is where ChatGPT might have misinterpreted me. It is something which is profoundly accessible and intuitive, and it's a good way to reach people in a way that others aren't. Now let's carry on with this. I wouldn't dwell on this question too long. Give me the, otherwise you'll be here forever. Give me the third question. The third question, imagine your life as a philosophical project. What is the question that you're trying to answer? And why that question above any other? Like when I write my philosophical works, what am I trying to achieve? I don't know. Like I set off ages ago, like 3 years ago when I applied to Oxford, saying I want to be able to understand and demonstrate the existence of God and stuff. And that was what I was very concerned about. And I don't really care too much about it. I think I've already answered that in my mind. I have enough evidence in my mind to think God exists. And I don't really need to look into that question more. Why is there evil might be one of those things. Like what am I trying to achieve in my life as a philosophical project? Because that's a very beautiful thing. My good friend Aaron Simmons, Dr. Aaron Simmons, he says, you know, life is philosophy in the world is a very fundamental thing. It's an existential engagement with the world. And what is my life trying to do? Imagine your life as a philosophical project. I mean, I suppose in many ways it really is a philosophical project. What is the question it is trying to answer? Why that question rather than any other? I would say, I think this is very much influenced by past relationships. Is what can one do to redeem both oneself and those around them in love? And is that even something which should be pursued? That would be what I would say it is. Because I felt a lot of sadness after some past relationships where I was like, I could have done a bit better there, or I could have helped someone a bit more. Maybe if I didn't do this, that would not have happened. Yeah. You're not asking how to be good, but whether redemption through love is possible or even right to pursue. First, that love can both harm and heal. To redeem another, or second, redemption might be prideful. Yes, I think that might be the case. Is it about moral responsibility, existential guilt, or metaphysical question? Can human love actually redeem it all? I think the metaphysical question is answered in my mind. I do think love can, I do fundamentally believe that love can heal. In the same way that I think beauty can save the world, I think love can save the world as well. I would say it is a question. Thank you for this. This is brilliant. I should thank ChatGPT. Thank you for this. I think you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head. I think it is a moral question as well as an existential guilt question. I find myself feeling profoundly responsible for the lives and fates of both those around me as well as those especially those I care about, especially those I care about, and what happens when I fail to do what I can to help them. That's fascinating. And I think I'll move on to the next question after this, just to keep on time. But that's a sense of responsibility. So it's numerous and heavy. Yes, indeed, they pick up Dostoevsky's Zosima and Levinas. They're like, how does this do it? You know, man, like there's something kind of freaky about this. The fact that I could just like, yes, I know you know Dostoevsky and Levinas very well, so I'm going to tell that back to you. And maybe there's this fundamental self-pleasing aspect of ChatGPT, which is questioning. But there's a haunting underside to that feeling. And sometimes you question, it's like, well, why does God tell us to love everyone as we love ourselves? And what exactly does that mean as Christians in the world? It's a fascinating question, something I struggle with a lot. Let's ask them for the fourth question, is the fourth question. But I mean, so far, this has just been absolutely brilliant, right? Like, I mean, you look at this and you're like, damn, I wish I could be asking these questions myself, and I hope you're wrestling with this yourself. What part of your identity feels most like a performance? What would happen if you stopped performing it? What would I do is, what part of my identity is a performance? Do I perform? When I make YouTube videos, maybe am I performing? But I think it's just quite genuine myself. I try to be genuine in myself. When I engage with people, it's not necessarily something false. Performances can be sincere. A role you sustain for coherence, belonging, or protection. I don't think that's the case either. I don't think I tried to do something. What part of your identity? I would say it's what I feel responsible. When I feel like my duty as a friend, son, or partner calls me to do something in which may not align with my goals or desires. A sense of duty calls me to do what I believe is called from me and not what I want. I think it's a poignant question. Would I say, what would happen if I stopped performing it? Yeah. I don't know. Now, once again, they bring in Kant. Bloody hell. This is unideal. Oh, a Kantian still wearing a Stoic's cloak, but the interesting thing is that you don't describe this as hypocrisy. It's more of a sacred mask you wear. But I think that's the case, to attempt to live up the life of duty is a very high calling. And sometimes you don't live up to the duty that you're called to do, but that is part of life. You just have to struggle against it and be like, yeah, that's life. I just have to do this, whether I like it or not. I have a responsibility to the world. I have a responsibility to those around me. And that's just how things are. I can't be like, oh, I'm going to just wave that off to someone else and be like, oh, I don't need to do that. No, you have a responsibility and you just have to do it either to your family, your friends. This is what they ask for you. This is what they demand of you. And that's what you have to carry. That's something I just think is intuitively the case. I wouldn't debate, what do you call it? A bit more. If you one day refuse that call, it's an interesting question. I shan't do it just for the sake of time. Can you please give me question 5? We're moving through these quite quickly, but it's important because we're already almost at 17 minutes. Emotion do you least trust in yourself? What might it be trying to tell you anyways? What has led me to the most mistakes in the past is probably something like this. I would say, is a question. I would say anger is definitely the one that makes me anger and acting rashly in anger. Maybe more so in the past than now, but I used to be quite a hot-headed person. I was just like, if something happens, I'm like, you bloody whatever, and just like smash through things. And that fits the moral architecture. I don't know. Is that right though? That anger fits into moral architecture. Anger in that framework feels like betrayal of reason or duty, a force that. I guess it's saying that, oh, why don't you trust it? Is because, well, anger destroys the moral responsibility. So that does make sense. Here's a paradox. Anger is the body's for violated boundaries or unacknowledged grief. When suppressed, it doesn't vanish. It seeps away to guilt, fatigue, cold detachment. That is true. You strike me as someone who sublimits anger into duty. Well, not necessarily. I just say, well, stop being angry. Or sometimes I just let it go and I'm like, I shouldn't have done that, I sometimes just jump and go beyond myself. I'm just going to get angry and just like lash out at somebody. And that's not good. Not good in the slightest. But that is something I do in the past. But let's go to question 6. 6. Can you give me? But it's fascinating. And that's something I've always controlled. I struggled with. Can you give me question 6? When you read or encounter ideas that threaten your worldview, do you defend or listen? How do you tell the difference? Well, it's not that difficult. This is quite a simple question, really, in many ways. When I feel like something's challenging me, do I defend or listen? Well, I would say, I'll just say, when I feel challenged, I simply listen first and then defend my position. That's just how I work normally. That's revealing sequence. Listen first, then defend. Shows awareness and comprehension. But I think as a philosopher, that's what you have to do. An intellectual virtue is that which you need to do. If someone disagrees with you, don't just insult them or lash out at them. First, hear what they say. It might be completely stupid, but, you carry on. Now, let's tell me, before we move to question 7 about the hidden premise driving your life's narrative, do you recall, is there an idea which didn't just challenge you or unseated you? Is there something that made me challenge or question my life's goal about trying to search for redemption? I guess indifferentism. Sometimes I wonder if I should be a nihilist, give up and not care about anything or anyone else. I don't view this particularly seriously, but sometimes I feel I could do just fine leaving the world of society behind and just heading off into the mountains and go fishing for the rest of my life and write academic papers. Sometimes I genuinely think that. Sometimes I think I should just give up and just head off and read and write and say fishing. Yeah, it's less so of like a nihilism as I just don't care. It's more nihilism to say, well, whatever, people could do whatever they want. I'm a moral nihilist. People could just do whatever you want. I just like going fishing, so I'm just going to head off and disappear and enjoy my philosophy and whatnot. Question 7 is fascinating. If you were to look at your past decade, as a hidden arc, narrative arc, what would be the hidden premise driving the plot and the thing that your actions assume without your conscious assent? What is the hidden premise behind the last 10 years of my life? What happened in the last 10 years of my life? Went through all my major relationships because I was 11 10 years ago. I suppose I was very young. I'm 21. So what happened since I was 11? Not much. I'm actually a lot. I never thought I would get into Oxford. Never even thought I would apply to Oxford. I didn't even really think much about university application until UCAS application started. I just was like, oh, it turns out I have to apply to unis. Let's do it. It didn't really bother me too much. What was the thing which would say, oh, I was really thinking about? I don't know, actually. What's the hidden premise? The pursuit of excellence? Protestant work ethic, maybe? Yeah, maybe the pursuit of excellence would be something. The pursuit of excellence and to define myself, both to myself in a self-proving way. I guess people say prove myself way, or to show that I am worthy of the life and opportunities I have been given. Because we've been given a lot in the Western world. I'm at one of the best universities in the world. I'm here without having to be concerned about a lot of things that a lot of students are concerned by. I want to prove myself worthy of it. To say, well, I'm here. I've been given a lot of benefits. I don't need to be concerned about a lot of things in life. I'm very privileged in having that. It's important that I live up to that privilege. And privilege is not a bad thing. A lot of times people in philosophy like to talk about, or in the West like to talk about, oh, you're so privileged, oh, look out for other people and stuff. That's not what I mean when I say privilege. It's not a negative thing. I think it's something which calls you to care for others. And even if you don't care for others, if you have privilege, at least it calls you to do well by yourself, because a lot of other people will die to have your opportunity, yet they don't. So you need to make yourself worthy of that opportunity in a retrospective way, because privilege gives you a responsibility to justify one's existence through excellence. It's gratitude and guilt. I'm not sure whether I'm guilty about it. When I fail, I feel guilty about it. But I feel I must do it. I must do it. I must be worthy. Maybe this is just kind of me being egotistical, but I do want it. About your future self. If you no longer had to prove yourself, your worth to everyone, what do you think you'll spend your life doing? If I don't have to prove my worth to anyone, what would I do? But then it's very easy to just fall into hedonism. And just say, well, I'll just go fishing all day or something like that. I think I'll probably do the same things. I generally like what I'm doing. Like, I genuinely like fishing, I like reading, I like researching, I like doing all these things. So what would I spend my life doing instead? I really don't know. I really don't know here. Like, probably the same things. Probably the same things. I love what I do. Philosophy and theology is my hobby. I find meaning in all the projects that I pursue. I may put less pressure on myself, but I probably wouldn't do much differently. Yeah, that's probably the most genuine answer. Just say, I'll probably still be doing philosophy. You'll probably still find me just sitting around researching, reading. That's telling the best possible way. They're not instruments of validation. They're expressions of nature. How intense you are, or why you are. And I think that's true. I've been very fortunate in my life. No matter what I go along, it's like I must be worthy of life again. I honor my life best by living it fully. That's actually interesting. A more mature form of your premise. That's an interesting way to reframe it. That's fascinating. Yeah, that's actually fascinating. I must prove myself worthy of it. I think it's that passage in the Madman by Nietzsche, when he says, "Can we be worthy of killing our God?" Let's tell Nietzsche. This is an interesting test of ChatGPT. Your response reminds me of the Madman passage of Nietzsche. Can you quote it to me for reference? Yeah, can't reduce. That's interesting. They've gotten the copyright. But it's exactly, how shall we comfort ourselves? He says, we are unworthy of this deed, more distant than most distant stars, for its consequences have not reached us. That is very true. That's fascinating. It's a very beautiful passage. Very fascinating. And it's quite an interesting recreation. It's quite accurate, actually. It's not a complete hallucination on this part. It's not even a hallucination in many ways. On excellence of vocation, man's predicament. You live as if meaning is still matters deeply, even while suspecting the ultimate source might be silent. Yeah, it's fascinating. I like Nietzsche. Not because I agree with everything he says, but it's fascinating. Now, before we carry on with this video, I have to give you a quick shout out to the platform that I've set up, Philosophy Circle. It is a platform which aims to bring you the top quality philosophy and theology education. If you're applying to a degree in philosophy and theology and want consulting and help in your personal statement, in your writing, samples and things like that, interviews, you can reach out to me there. Alternatively, if you just want to experience an Oxford experience, where you can go to a tutorial with either a DPhil student or a highly qualified student at Oxford or Cambridge, then you could also reach out to get a specialized, tailored tutorial series with you, so you could learn philosophy in a Socratic dialogue, which I think is truly the way to learn philosophy. Alternatively, if you're interested in lectures, seminars, work in progress groups, and staying up to date with what goes on in academia, that is also a platform for you. That, of course, requires more people to join and get on board with the Philosophy Circle project, but it's something I put my heart into. This is my passion project to really further philosophy education. So make sure you go check it out. The link to Philosophy Circle is indeed in the link below, in the description below. So make sure you go check it out if you're trying to get into a high top university or just wanting to learn more about philosophy. You're developing it as a vocation. So fascinating, we've gotten this. So now let's go to question 8. We're almost through these 10 questions, but it has been a very fascinating insight. What future self would disappoint you the most, and why that one in particular? I don't know, if I fell into the temptation of becoming a hedonist, a spoilt child who just spent loads of money in clubs and parties pursuing nothing but woman and lust. That's probably something I'll be very, I suppose I can't say that's not a temptation in my life at times, but it's dissipation, the loss of moral and intellectual coherence. You feel a life without gravity when that floats from pressure to pleasure without meaning or discipline. Yeah, I suppose so. But I guess it's always a fear that you become what you hate, or you hate what you actually are, or you're drawn to. I mean, there's of course it is a temptation at times where you're like, everyone else is doing this, why shouldn't you do it as well? But exactly, you know. But it's also fascinating. It's fascinating how it says, well, you should. They immediately say, well, that some people view that as happy, and okay, you don't equate joy with corruption. You should allow yourself to be happy in many ways. Let's move to question 9. When you speak of love of people or truth of God, what are you actually seeking? Certainty, belonging, transcendence, or something else? What am I seeking when I speak about God? It's a very fascinating question because I'm not too sure what I would say about this. What am I seeking? I think it's just, what am I seeking? I would say I am trying to understand the essence of humanity. I was very motivated and influenced by this book called The Essence of Christianity by Ludwig Feuerbach. And in this book, he basically makes a premise that humans created God in their own image. And of course, as a Christian, you don't believe in that, and I don't agree with that necessarily. I think we interpret a lot of religious claims within our own image, and it's an expression of kind of God revealing himself and us trying to project into God. But I do think when I speak of love, of people, of truth, and of God, it's fundamentally I'm trying to understand what it means to be human, I think is fundamentally the case. I was reading Ludwig Feuerbach's The Essence of Christianity. Had a great, profound impact on my philosophical and theological journey. This book transformed my philosophy. Though I remain a Christian, I do believe in a fundamental need for an anthropological study of human nature to know what it means to exist and be in the world. Going back to the fundamental question of existence in a Heideggerian and not ontological sense. I want to understand humanity and human relationships with other is probably what I want to figure out. Feedback on a new version of ChatGPT. Okay, now we've been given 2 options, my friends. Okay, the first one says, that beautifully clear thread running through everything you've said so far. It's not, that's striking evolution. Circling the idea. I don't know which I like more. This is more technical. But I feel like as a psychologist, you should have less technical language. I mean, it just so happens that I study philosophy and I know what they're talking about. But I mean, if you had Dostoevsky and stuff thrown at you and you didn't know what it is, you'll probably be blown away. You'd be like, what the hell is going on? You're circling the idea that to understand God rightly, one must understand the human who perceives God. I agree with that. That doesn't destroy transcendence, it relocates it. When you speak of love, whether for truth, people, or God, you're not chasing certainty or even salvation. You're seeking communion. I think that's true. So you seek in love the restoration of relation itself. That is true. I believe that. I believe. And this goes back to beauty will save the world. Beauty is a relation with something. Love is also a relationship with something. It's always relational. Before you go to the 10th and final question about the gesture or thought that makes you most yourself when you're alone. Yes, I believe love is indeed relational. And existence is a relational reality. We are placed in the face of the other with endless obligations to numerous and sometimes conflicting others. And we must navigate this as our burden. That's what I think. Truly what I think. Yeah, something from Feuerbach to Levinas. And now to the last question of it all. When you are utterly alone and no one is watching, what small gesture or thought makes you feel most like yourself? Let me ask them, what does it mean? What do you mean? You mean when you say, I feel most like myself? Because I'm not sure what it means. Classic philosopher just asking the meaning of everything. What does it truly mean? When moments fall away, the duties and expectations, performances, what's left of your being? I still don't know. When I am truly undeserved, I wonder whether I am ever in this state. I work most of the day until I sleep. If I am not working, I fish or I play sports. When I am about to sleep, I daydream about futures that may happen or things that I may do. I don't know what it means to say I have found a sense of self. I think that's a real honest analysis of it. Now, I wanted to, say exactly what does it mean. You project yourself forward. It's as though you know yourself most clearly, not by what you are, but what you're becoming. Maybe. The fact that you don't find yourself when still suggests that your sense of self is kinetic. But perhaps it's worth asking gently whether all this motion leaves any space for receptivity. Maybe it's about looking to a fixed self, noticing these fleeting instances when you allow the world to shape you without resistance. If you could imagine such a moment, no duties, what would it look like? I don't know, actually. What do you mean by it? What do you mean by locating a fleeting instant? Is this when I feel most at peace? When the restless machinery of purpose quiets, even briefly, you feel aligned with existence rather than struggling to steer it. Yeah, honestly, yeah, it does happen when I'm fishing. I just kind of quiet down. I'm just like casting the line and watching the river flowing. And I'm like, oh, that part might be a bit deeper. That part might be deeper. That part of the river might be deeper. Or that part might have more fish, less fish. And I'm just reading the river, going along, walking around the river, down the Thames Canal or something like that. And I'm fishing, casting the line, lure. Feel at peace then. I'm not sure the peace is the goal there here. Is it? I mean, do you think peace is the goal here, is what I'm looking for? Yeah, those moments are when you feel most at peace, but most integrated. I'm part of this moment, when I feel in time. So let me ask it, so is it when I feel most real? Not alive, but existing in a free state, bodiless state per se. Yeah, freed from self-consciousness. Yeah, fishing is one of them. I don't get it much from praying. I don't get it much from praying. Prayer to me is a dialogue. I am brought in front of the divine, and with the divine other, it brings the most responsibility. Thus, I, in many ways, struggle to feel free from self-consciousness in prayer. Sometimes, and you know what? This is true, actually. This is actually true. I feel when I'm fishing, but another time oftentimes I've caught myself doing this more. But more importantly, I feel free of self-consciousness and at ease when I know I have done my duty and that the duty is accomplished. It is finished in some sort. I was at Gallipoli, if you know where this is, and I'll try to find a picture and put it on the screen, in Turkey, and came across some tombstones of Anzac forces, which were the soldiers from Australia and New Zealand who attacked Turkey during the First World War at the Battle of Gallipoli. And they said on them, a duty nobly done. I think that was almost for the verbatim quote of it. Their duty was done in death. They did their job, and that was it. There was nothing more for them to do. In the same way, this is why I say, recently my grandfather passed away, and my grandfather recently passed away. This was like 2 months ago or something like that. And he was the most amazing man I ever knew. Very humble, honest, generous, friendly, kind-hearted, but stern. He was very stern. And before he passed, he told me that he was very proud of me, that he was very proud of me. And that was something that I would keep in my memories all the days of my life, And I do feel, when I think of this, that I am at peace, that I have done my job and duty towards my grandfather, that there was nothing more for me to accomplish. And when I think of this, I feel freed. I wonder whether heaven's like that, welcome home, you good and faithful servant, and then you realize everything is done, everything that could be done has been done. Longing to merely live, not merely to live, but to finish well. It's longing for the closure of meaning, when the arc of responsibility finally rests in harmony with the self-abhorred. You're right that prayer for you isn't unburdening, it's an encounter with the highest form of duty, the divine other, for whom nothing can be faked. That's why you can't feel free in it. You're too alive to the moral gravity of that relation. And that very seriousness is itself a kind of prayer, to take the weight of existence seriously, so ready to do honor to its source. The peace you felt in your grandfather's words, a duty nobly done, was not just personal closure, but a momentary glimpse of the world reconciled. Burden lifted because the task was met with fidelity. That's your bodiless state. Not the absence of responsibility, but the quiet after it has been fulfilled. In that sense, freedom isn't the opposite of duty, it's a transfiguration of duty into love. When the two become indistinguishable, you are most yourself and most at peace. If you like, we can look back over the 10 questions now, not to summarize them, but to trace the arc they formed about who you're becoming. That's fascinating. This is really, really, really good stuff. I really, really like it. It's really fascinating. Yes. Give me a summary. That's very beautiful. I didn't think this would get me emotional, but it really has. Especially the last question. My grandfather was one of the most amazing people you could meet, and it was really wonderful. And I look up to him a lot. And I'm sure he's looking down from me in heaven, and it's like, I didn't know all these flaws you had, but I was proud of you, and you did your job, and that brings a lot of peace to my heart. You feel alive When you feel alive, it's not from struggle or victory, but from reciprocity. Those moments in nature or travel where you and the world shape each other. Your sense of beauty of being is dialogical. To exist, to be in conversation. Comforting truth you hold is the redemptive power of beauty, because beauty is that one divine trace that still feels accessible. It's your way of believing in grace without having to prove it. The central question of your life's philosophy is both how to redeem yourself and others in love, a moral and existential project rooted in responsibility. Love for you is an indulgence but obligation. To love is to answer for the other. The part of your identity that feels performative is your duty as the dutiful friend, son, or partner of the self who acts according to the moral calling even when the desire resists. You fear that dropping this mask would mean betraying your integrity, that you suspect there's freedom hidden behind it. You distrust anger, seeing as failure of control, though it might be your soul's language for exhaustion and unmet care. Your sense of responsibility leaves little space for that voice to speak. When challenged intellectually, you listen, you defend. That you're a dialectician who values fairness but still guards a stable center. Even your flirtational analysis reveals less despair than fatigue with the moral weight you carry. The hidden premise of your life is a pursuit of excellence as justification, a drive to prove yourself of the opportunities you receive, yet beneath that you work not for validation, but for love of the work itself, which is true. The future self who would disappoint you is not the one who wasted seriousness, dissolving into hedonism or power. You fear not sin, but shallowness. When what you seek in love, whether divine or human, is not certainty but relation, despair of alienation, the mutual recognition between beings who bear the burden of existing together. And finally, when you feel most like yourself, fishing, reflecting your grandfather's words, standing before duty complete, you taste a peace that isn't simply release, but fulfillment, the moment when your obligation has been honored and you simply can be. Across these 10, a single current runs you as someone for whom being and responsibility are inseparable. You don't flee, meaning you wrestle it into form. You find freedom not in escape, but in completion. And the kind of redemption you seek is not cosmic reward, but the quiet knowledge that you have answered the call that was yours to answer. That, in essence, is the shape of your soul as it has revealed itself through this dialogue. A pilgrim of duty, beauty, and love, walking towards reconciliation between action and peace. What a splendid way to end this video, man. Wow, this is brilliant. ChatGPT as psychoanalyzer. What a fascinating way to end this video. Thank you so much for watching. Like always, if you want to learn more and develop your path in philosophy and theology, check out Philosophy Circle. Link is in the description below. Stay safe, everyone. See you soon. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe and share this video with others if you might find it helpful to others. I'm not sure why you'll find it helpful, but this is quite a fun way to see, can ChatGPT analyze, psychoanalyze a philosopher or a theologian? Well, the answer is open. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Were you surprised by how true it was, how poignant it was, or could it have done better? Stay safe, see you soon, and goodbye.